What's going on, YouTube world and YouTube tribe? Welcome back to LilBigMan Gaming. Brings you. You see the shirt, you see the title of review for Friday Night Smackdown. I'll be a little bit late, but nonetheless, it's here, right? You about to get my opinions about the show. One of the major things going into the show was Paul Heyman and what he did last week, where I think what he do? He was like advocating for Brock Lesnar, saying because Sami Zayn was threatening to beat him up, so Roman Reigns was there, but he told Brock Lesnar, "You're going to be the future reigning, defending." He did all that type of stuff, and he's seen it a little shady. So the overall theme of this SmackDown was Paul Heyman going to get in trouble for last week? The looming threat of that hanging over Paul Heyman's head. I think they even said that Paul Heyman didn't even haven't spoken to Roman Reigns for over a week and all that. So, with that being said, they didn't even, for the first time in a long time, they didn't have an opening promo. They just when the show was open with an actual match, which was such a nice change of pace for the first time in a long time. Like I said, no promo to start the show. It was just straight match, and the first match was Toni Storm and Sasha Banks versus Sanchi Blackheart and Charlotte Flair. This was actually a good match. It was a good way to open the show, and it moved the needle. It moved the rivalry that they got going on. It's like that, and you could kind of see what they trying to do. They got both women's champion, got rookie title contenders. You got Toni Storm trying to get a title match. You got Liv Morgan who got a title match, is getting a title rematch at day one. So you gotta assume the way this match ended, Toni Storm will be on her way, because and when it all said was done, Toni Storm would get the pinfall victory over Charlotte Flair, thus giving her actual legit contendership. She's actually pinned Charlotte Flair. But yeah, that was a good match. That was a good way to open the show. But then we would move on to a backstage segment with King Woods, and basically he was it was like he basically was doing his royal proclamation, getting people to kiss the hand, and then the Usos would interrupt, and basically they would jar at each other about their potential match, not potential, but their match at day one, and both claiming they were going to beat each other at day one, basically. And then you got King. They basically challenged Xavier. I'm not. Xavier, King Woods and Kofi challenge the Usos to a match later on the night. With the Usos said, "Fine, we accept your challenge," because the King Woods said we was gonna beat you. If you accept our challenge, we'll beat you tonight, and then we'll beat you at day one. And basically, the Usos accept the challenge and basically said the same thing. They was we'll beat you tonight and at day one. The second match will be the Viking Raiders raid. That's actually growing on me. The little raid thing. Versus Jinder Mahal and Shanky. This was an okay match. I didn't say I was totally invested in it, but it was good to see that is a potential. They trying to move in another tag team other than the Usos, and other than seeing the Usos versus the New Day for the 100th time in a row. Even though the Usos and the New Day know how to keep the match interesting, to keep the rivalry interesting, because we seen like 1,000 times before, but it's still interesting to see them. Hold on. It's still interesting to see them, even though we've seen it thousands of times, right? what we got? We got, oh god, this was like probably the worst thing of the night. I don't understand. And like, it's just annoying. Like I don't really feel like it's annoying because I don't really care for the Happy Corbin character gimmick that they trying to roll over. Like I will give them credit. They getting their job done being the annoying, happy asshole like people, but. Like it's like that's a worst segment ever. And then they had like an Excalibur like thing where because Drew McIntyre stabbed his sword into Adam Pearce's desk last week. So then they was talking about they was trying to get the sword out and they couldn't. They both couldn't lift the sword, and then Drew McIntyre basically came out and made a joke about them having performance issues, and then he, being the Scottish warrior, I guess the worthy of Excalibur, as you will, pulled out the sword and then threatened to use it on Baron Corbin. But then we will find out like later on in the night, while we on the subject of Baron Corbin, that Drew McIntyre will have a match at day one versus what we thought was gonna be Baron Corbin, but it was actually gonna be Riddick Moss, or Madcap Moss. They're gonna be instead, so there's gonna have a day. It's gonna be a day. We're probably gonna be a pre-show match. The third match of the night was Ridge Holland versus Cesaro, and I think like before the match even started, before the bell could ring, Ridge Holland hit Cesaro in the side with a billy club, and they had to like tape his ribs and stuff, ribs and all that type of stuff up. So he had like a distinct advantage going in, and plus with Sheamus on the outside interference. So I'm kind of interested in what they're going to do with Ridge Holland, because this was a good match for him, and him getting the win over the veteran of Cesaro even made that even more interesting. So it looks like they giving him a nice decent push and having a little bump from Cesaro and Sheamus. We would go into the next match, which would later become Shayna Baszler versus Naomi. Naomi basically came out to the ring and basically, demanded that Sonya Deville come out to the ring, and she's basically calling Sonya Deville a coward because she's done everything possible to avoid a one-on-one fight with her. And she she ain't had Natalya, Shayna. She keep having all these people attack her and do something, and do all this, but she won't fight her herself. So she did. So she said, since you out here claiming for a match and stuff, I told you when I got this suit on, you can't touch me. But since you out here ready for a match, you're going to get one against Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler attacked her from behind, working the leg. Oddly enough, after last week debut of Xia Li, which was weird. Why did they just Tony Stormed her? Like, you have her debut, at least Tony Storm did have a match, but you had her debut in a segment with Naomi, and then there was just nothing, and this week there was no Xia Li. But yeah, Naomi versus Shayna Baszler was an okay match. Naomi ended up getting the win, even though she had the leg worked over. I think she had like a roll up pin over Shayna Baszler, and then she would go out outside the ring where Sonya was, and taunt her that she got the victory even though she set her up. And you heard Sonya say, "I wish you would. I wish you would. I dare you." Daring each other to hit. We would get the next match, which would be the match I was talking about earlier, which would be King Woods and Kofi Kingston, the New Day versus the Usos. This was a good match. Like I said, they always put on great matches. That's the Usos and the New Day, or King Woods and Kofi. Or when it was Big E and Kofi. Either way, they knew how to put on good matches, and this was definitely a good match, and it definitely ended well. They got a little length of time, but they had to save the final segment of the night for Roman Reigns. So this match ended with the New Day getting the victory over King Woods, and the New Day getting a victory over the Usos. I forgot to mention too, throughout the whole day, Paul Heyman was waiting for Roman Reigns to show up, and when a limo did pull up, or like a limo like truck pulled up, they thought it was Roman. He thought it was Roman, but it was Brock Lesnar at first. Then the second time it happened, it was Roman. And the reason why I mention that, because this is the second time. This is how they started like the Roman Reigns segment. He basically came in and was like, "Let's go out to my ring." And that's what he did. He went out to the ring, did his long, convoluted acknowledge me intro. And a little entrance. And then he started by asking Chicago to acknowledge him. And then he mentioned how he doesn't like when his cousins lose, because this is like this promo happened like right after the Usos match. And he said he talks about how he doesn't like when his cousins lose, and they know this. He goes to Jay, he goes to Jimmy. He said they know this. But I forgive you because we're blood and because we're family. And he said because of that we could get through anything. But then he goes, but then there's you. And pointing at Paul. He said, we're not blood. Got to turn over because I got the rest of that on the other side. He said, we're not blood. And he said, you should know better than anyone. He would say, like, you should know better than anyone that I don't like to be disrespected. I don't like to be disrespected because when you disrespect me, you disrespect me and my family. And then he basically proceeded to ask Paul Heyman like some questions that we throughout the months and weeks we heard him ask Paul Heyman before, and he said he thought he had the reason why he asked me this question because he thought he already knew the answer, but because even though he wasn't here last week, he said I still know what happened. You looked a little shady last week, so once again I'm going to ask you these questions. And he proceeded to ask Paul Heyman. I can't remember what was the first one. What was it? He said, did you know that Brock Lesnar was going to return at SummerSlam? That was his first question. I couldn't remember what the first question was, but yeah, he said, did you know that Brock Lesnar was going to return at SummerSlam? Did you know Brock Lesnar's suspension was going to be lifted? Then he said, then this was the most important one. Are you an advocate, or are you the wise man, or are you the advocate? And then when Paul was getting ready to answer, he said he wanted Paul to tell him to make sure that he tell him the truth. And Paul told him, I think he said, tell me the truth. Why are you protecting Brock Lesnar for me? And Paul Heyman tells him, I'm not protecting Brock Lesnar from you. I'm protecting you from Brock Lesnar. And this caused Roman Reigns to get angry. But he did it in a way where he thanked Paul Heyman for his service, for his 40-year service to his family, and for everything he did for him, but he's fired. And then he would proceed to Superman punch Paul Heyman. Which I was like, oh man, why you punch old ass Paul Heyman? You got a family, man. You can't punch me, punch your Paul Heyman. But yeah, he punched Paul Heyman, and he looked like he was getting ready to do a concerto. He set Paul Heyman up for a concerto, but this would bring out Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar would basically decimate the Usos, and then he would stare down Roman Reigns. But Jimmy came back. Jay was still down, and Jay came back and super kicked Brock Lesnar, and Roman was like, yeah, get him, like as soon as he got ready, as soon as he started saying yeah, get him, after that super kick, Brock Lesnar just got back up and just picked Jimmy up and F5'd him. So Jimmy was back out, and then it was just Roman And Brock Lesnar, you know, Roman talking smack, telling him, he was like, you go just, you know, do what you do to my cousin. You could get in this ring you want to. He was going, he basically threatened him. He was going to beat him with the chair. And Brock, you know, circling in the ring, that he'll eventually get in the ring, and Roman would beat him with the chair, but then to no avail, because you know Brock Lesnar's the beast incarnate. He took all the chair shots. Basically, like, he kind of sold the chair shots, but it was like he was supposed to be like this beast. So like, the chair shots not supposed to have that much effect on him. And he picked Roman up, L5'd him, and I think he L5'd him again to end the segment. But overall, this was an okay episode. Besides, I think the only thing I didn't like was the Happy Talk segment. And but yeah, every match was decent. The promos was decent. I think, yeah, this was a decent episode. This episode gets a 7.5 big ups. It was a decent episode of Smackdown, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I ain't gonna say it was a bad time, but let me know in the comments what you thought of Friday Night Smackdown, and if you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed the video so much and you like my reviews, then hit this button right there in the upper right corner for all of my reviews. And if you enjoyed the video so much you want to support the channel, then hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn post notifications all the way on so you get notified when I drop videos. Because guess what? Well, hit any one of the videos before for more of my amazing content, but I also got some reactions coming up right after this. So that's why you need to turn that post notification on. Remember, all that stuff is free. And yeah, peace out. See you in the reaction.